A mysterious new informant sets Mulder on a path to uncover why a man killed, among other people, his wife. As the case develops, he claims the people he killed were all the same man.
Combined with other murders in the area, this mystery evolves into perhaps another test on an unsuspecting community.
This is not happening.
Our blind date's not off to a great start. I've been waiting here nearly 2 hours.
I was asked to make sure you weren't followed.
It's just you mean the drug dealers.
Well, this area's always been known for its criminal element.
Especially when Congress is in session. What's this?
Something you want to follow.
Follow where?
That's all I have for you.
What do you mean that's all you have for me? I get an anonymous email to come meet you here in the middle of the night. I don't know who you are or what you want.
I don't have any obligation or desire to give you any answers. I'm not one of your sources.
And you're just a messenger boy?
It's late, Agent Mulder. Go home. Get some sleep.
Who told you to contact me? How do I know I'm not being played?
I guess you don't.
Well, you can go ahead and recycle that then.
I've been asked to tell you. You walk away from this, more people will die.
Welcome back to the show. This is Not Happening, another X-Files podcast. I'm your host, Mike, and with me, my good friend Andrew. How are you doing tonight?
I'm pretty wet.
Way to catch me off guard at 9:30 in the morning.
And I'm wired. I'm
wet and you're
wired. Thus, I'm ready for this recording.
I'm sure there is a triple X-rated movie somewhere called Wetwired.
Oh, hey, bonus
or
content.
Wet and Wired.
That's right.
Yeah.
No, I'm good, man. It's good to see you. And I've been looking forward to this retelling of Blood for a while now.
Well, don't give it away, Andrew.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. Did I jump to the end?
Whoops. Yeah, I mean, this is an episode where it feels like, hey, let's try this again. And we will get into the ups and downs of maybe perhaps both episodes. But for now, I do want to say that at first blush, Wetwired comes off as, to me, a little bit more professional, a little bit more intrigue and suspense.
There's a little bit more tradecraft than they had in Blood. And keep in mind, of course, that the difference in time, they've evolved as a show. I mean, but we gushed about Blood. Like, that was...
And this will be taking nothing away from Blood, right?
Yeah.
So they are two sides of the same coin, I think, but very different.
Very much so. And worth noting, this one written by Matt Beck, who is a regular visual effects producer on the first 5 seasons. So everyone gets a little kick of the can in this show, including our man Matt Beck. But it's directed by Rob Bowman, so there's a steady hand on the tiller for this show.
Yeah, and this was kind of a show off for Beck. You know, this is something I can do. Let me show you some of my visual effects. I'm going to make my own episode so where I can do something cool.
I hadn't even considered that, but yes, you're right. There is an element of what's a cool way we can present the effect. Anyway, we'll get into it. I argue that the whole glitchy visual, what they see, and it's like a TV thing. I'm not sure that totally landed, but for the time, it was probably pretty cool.
All right. Well, are you ready to continue being wet?
Are you ready to get wet and wired?
And wired, yes.
Yeah, I'm ready to dive into the wetness.
All right. We open on Braddock Heights, Maryland. It's nighttime. The trademark X-Files white light backlights the scene, shining through the trees and casting deep shadows. A man, Joseph Patnick, uses his shovel to dig a hole furiously. He's disheveled and panting. He curses a man's dead body as he drags him into the pit. We can see the man's bloody face. He was struck on the head, killing him, likely with the shovel. As the camera pulls upwards, Patnick begins burying the body scoop by scoop. We cut now to his house. He washes the dirt and blood off his hands and arms. As he looks out his kitchen window, he's startled by someone behind him. It's the man he just buried, but in different clothes. How could this be? He cries out in disbelief, grabs his handy shovel once more, and takes a big swipe at the reborn man. In a quick cut, he's now shoving the body into the trunk of his car. Without notice, a patrol car rolls up onto his driveway. He freezes, wide-eyed at them. They call for him to raise his hands. As the officers exit their vehicle, they are both bathed in shadows, unrecognizable. When they step closer, however, the lights reveal their faces. Both of them are the man he buried. Patnick is crazed. He rushes at the closest cop and tackles him to the ground, attempting to strangle him. He's then pulled off the cop by the other and tased, sending him to the ground. The officer who tased him now draws his revolver and aims down at him. When Patnick looks up at him, he notices the face begin to shift, distort, like an electronic digital image. Suddenly, the face of the police officer is now of another man, a man with a mustache. The other officer comes over to cuff him and lift him to his feet. We see now he has a different face as well. When they look inside the trunk of the car the crazed Patnick was loading, they're horrified to see a blonde woman with a bloody head injury, dead. Patnick then looks himself. He can't believe it. It's his wife. Sarah!
Oh no, Sarah.
Credits.
Ooh.
So, how'd this one grab you?
It's pretty cool. You just knew when those cops came up from the shadows that they were going to have the war criminal's face.
Oh, yeah.
On them, which is a brilliant piece of work. I love the setup. That's a lot of work to do a grave, a bit of grave digging. That's all I could think when he was digging. It's like, man,
how long has he been out here?
Yeah. And now he's got to dig another grave? I mean, oof, this guy is going to have calluses.
I just got done burying someone. Now I got to do it again.
I got to do it again. How many of these war criminals are there? I think it's worth noting that this is one of the few episodes that they throw specific dates in, because this is April 27th in Braddock Heights.
Yep.
And we're going to get a continuing timeline. We're going to get April 29th, April 30th, May 1st, May 2nd. So this is very specifically chronologized. Set it in a timeline, which is something that you don't really see in the X-Files. Usually it is very vague in terms of when things happen. You know, it's either winter or summer, but they don't give us dates.
Yeah, they wanted to, I guess, give us an idea of how long it takes for this to develop and how the case is unfolding, because I think a big part of that has got to be Scully's involvement, right? Like how it begins to affect her. This is when the case started. This is when they got called to the case. And then by May 10th, I think is the last day or whatever.
It is, yeah.
She's fully recovered or whatever. But I think that might have something to do with it. I honestly don't know. But
I don't know if it's necessary, to be honest. I mean, it's interesting.
Probably not.
But I think this is a Matt Beck thing. He's like, I needed to be realer than normal X-Files.
Yeah. And I just want to say, to kind of piggyback on your grave digging joke, honestly, all I could think of is I just got done digging post holes for my mailbox.
Oh, yeah.
I have two mailboxes side by side, and Jesus Christ, that was hard enough. And I can't imagine having to go back into a forest and dig another 6 feet down, 6 feet. It's just...
I don't think he dug down 6 feet.
Probably not.
I think it is a shallow grave.
I'm sure.
He's not a professional ditch digger.
Even still, though, like I had trouble digging a foot.
You couldn't just bolt another mailbox to your existing...
No, it's a big whole thing. But
it's a whole thing.
It's not by choice. Not by choice.
I understand. All right. Well, unless we want to talk about your mailbox, I guess we got to continue.
Yes. All right, we come back. We're in Washington. It is April 29th, 2:12 a.m. Mulder is in his car during the wee hours of the morning. A suited man gets in. Mulder makes idle chit-chat to his new informant. The man has silver hair and shows extreme disinterest in helping Mulder, but has been tasked to do so. He hands Mulder a newspaper with an article about Patnick's slayings. Mulder takes this opportunity to ask who sent him and if he's being played, but the man doesn't care. He has zero interest in helping. When he tries to leave, Mulder tosses the paper back at him, refusing to play along. But it's here the man says he's been told to tell Mulder that if he doesn't follow this lead, more people will die. And this, of course, makes Mulder take another look.
Now, I think that's interesting. Okay, the very nature that there is this guy. I mean, this is born of necessity because I gather Stephen Williams was not available for protracted shooting. Otherwise, it would have been him, I think.
Mhm.
But them being, the producers being put into the situation of not having Stephen Williams, they had to decide, all right, well, we need another messenger boy, and it's going to be this new character. And necessity is the mother of invention. So what it means is we now have another layer. This is an expendable messenger. Spoiler, he's not going to make it through the episode. But
No.
I think it's an interesting take that why would X decide to do this? Because this is another layer of exposure for him. You know,
Right.
that he's going
Possible
to
exposure, yeah.
Yeah, right. If the cigarette smoking man got a hold of this guy and is like, hey, what are you doing?
What I gather, and this is just me being me and playing headcanon, this guy obviously does not want to be where he is.
Mm-hmm.
So knowing what we know about the Syndicate, X probably has something on him.
Oh, likely. Yeah.
And he is in some capacity a subordinate to X. So X is like, I need you to do this. I can't be here right now. I've got too much heat on me, or he's just taken away on another project or something.
I got to go dig a post for a mailbox.
I got to go dig a mailbox post.
Yeah.
Cannot be bothered with this, so you're going to go ahead and do it. So that's kind of how I've always rationalized it. The guy plays it very well. He does not care about Mulder.
It's great, yeah.
Doesn't want to be there and has no answers for him. So,
and I can just imagine X saying to this guy, give this newspaper article to Mulder and tell him when he says he's going to walk away, you tell him that if he walks away from this, more people are going to die. All right, you got all that?
You got that?
Because he's going to walk away. He's going to do that thing he does.
I'll never give you another calzone if you don't do this.
If you don't do this, your calzones are cut off.
Cut off. Well, we go now to Frederick County Psychiatric Hospital. A slow push into Patnick's lifeless face as his red eyes stare upwards at the dayroom television. Mulder looks in from the outside glass, and Scully arrives and inquires as to what this case is about. Patnick claims to have been killing the same man over and over, but he wouldn't die, and there's no apparent history of mental illness. 2 weeks ago, a babysitter in his neighborhood attacked the kids she was watching, claiming they were wolves. No discernible motives for these attacks. Dr. Stroman comes in and introduces himself. He's got him on Thorazine, but it doesn't quite do the trick. Patnick is prone to outbursts, but right now he seems completely docile. He posits it may be some organic delusional syndrome, possibly by chronic meth abuse, but he's not sure. After a little discussion, there's a scream from inside the room. It's Patnick, beside himself with fear, backing away and continuing to scream incoherence. He runs to a corner and hides. As orderlies descend on him, the agents enter and note his interest in what's on the television. It's a war-torn Yugoslavia and an image of a man, Ladislav Miraskovic. Okay, it's a war-torn Yugoslavia, and an image of a man, Ladislav Miraskovic, is shown. It's the man from the pre-credits scene that he kept killing. Apparently, this man is responsible for ordering the rape and murders of thousands of innocent civilians. And if you thought that reporter's voice was familiar, Andrew, you'd be correct.
Where do I hear him before?
Paul Rabwin, one of the producers.
You know what that just screams to me? Deadline, and they needed a voice.
We need a voice. We need a voice.
Paul, you got a voice for radio. You got any plans for the next 2 hours? We need you in the booth.
Oh, boy.
I need to say that during this whole sequence, I missed the first probably 2 or 3 minutes of whatever blah, blah they were going on about with Joseph Patnick and Stroman and the Thorazine and all the rest, because I saw the credits for Sheila Larkin, all three of the lone gunmen, and Stephen Williams, and I was like, oh, well, there you go. We're having a great episode here. And I was just there, and I didn't even follow the plot.
You do run that risk with this show. It's like, who's the guest star, and am I going to get sidetracked by what's happening?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Stroman offers kind of a vague, unsure account as to what may be contributing to Patnick's mental state. What did you make of that? Anything?
As I said, distracted, didn't really absorb it. You know that this stage of the game, you're never going to get anything accurate. It's just like, Patnick's fucked up. That's really all we know.
That's all we know.
So good luck.
Yep.
It's setting the stage. It's putting the cutlery on the table.
Yeah. We go now to Joseph Patnick's house. They let a cable van pass before they cross the street and enter Patnick's house. Scully is naturally suspicious they're being used, but Mulder thinks if they are, it's to find out the connection between the killers and who they're killing. Once inside the house, curiously unlocked, they hear a woman scream loudly. They draw their guns and peer into the living room, but it's simply two middle schoolers watching an action movie. They're cutting school and entered the house through the open window. Mulder sends them back outside through the front door, you hooligans. Through the front door. I thought that was funny. They go back towards the window, like okay, we're just going to leave.
Yeah, that's kind of...
Come on. As Mulder takes a moment to watch the television, the signal is cut and he gets white noise. He glances outside to see the cable worker on the telephone pole. Scully calls him over to see that Patnick was obsessive about recording television. He has hundreds of tapes labeled, notably, of news broadcasts. They're dated and in chronological order. She notes that he was also watching the news when he lost it in the psych ward. She ponders a connection, but Mulder seems doubtful. She grabs some tapes anyway. We head to their motel.
All right. But before we drive to the hotel, couple of things. As an avid viewer of the movie Die Hard, I can tell you that the screaming and soundtrack that drew them into the house, guns drawn, completely incorrect. Not a part of that movie.
No.
And I also guarantee you they are not so stupid as to mistake the mid-range volume of a TV with actual violence. So a big thumbs down for me on this particular attempt to get our pulse going with some gun action.
Yeah, I didn't buy that one either. I think the scream over the television is like everyone anywhere knows what a television sounds like.
Yeah.
There's no mistaking that. So, whatever. It's Fox. You got to get the guns out.
That's right. We've had like 11 minutes with no action. So your middle viewers are already dozing off. Let's remind them that this is a gun show.
Even when you front load it with two murders at the pre-credit scene, you still got to have a scene like this.
You got to bring it up again. I do like their little banter that they're suspicious they're being used. That's nice speaking to the audience because, of course, we're suspicious as well. So props to that. And I was just like, okay, the cable just happens to get cut while they're there. I mean, that's not suspicious.
Yeah. I do like the inconspicuous, as they're getting out of their car in front of Patnick's house, they're across the street, right?
Yeah.
And they pause to let the van pass. We don't even get a glance, don't even pay any attention to it. They continue discussing the case and walk across the street and talk to, and enter the residence. So I thought that was a good setup. I thought it was very clever. And
they're laying their cards out early with the work van. Although that is also a page from their own book because this is the same blue collar subterfuge from Anasazi, where these guys are doing things under.
I actually make note of that later.
Oh well, then I won't. Steal
no. I'm glad we're on the same page. Oh man. She grabs some tapes anyway, and we head to their motel. It's nighttime. Both agents have spent time independently of each other, reviewing some tapes. Mulder heads to Scully's room after having zero luck. He crashes on her couch. She shows him something interesting. She has 3 tapes, April 19th, 21st, and 23rd. They are the dates of 3 of his murders. What's more interesting is each of those broadcasts had a piece on the war and on Ladislav Miraskovic. She's betting the tape of the night he killed his wife will contain similar programming.
So you think that because Patnick saw this war criminal on television, he was somehow inspired to go out and murder these people?
Well, recent studies have linked violence on television to violent behavior.
Yeah, but those studies are based on the assumption that Americans are just empty vessels ready to be filled with any idea or image that's fed to them like a bunch of Pavlov dogs and go out and act on it.
But they believe that the causal connections are there, Mulder.
The studies have also shown causal connections between cow flatulence and the depletion of the ozone layer. What you're talking about is pseudoscience used to make political book.
All I'm saying is that I think it's clear that the programs that Patnick watched somehow triggered his violent behavior.
How?
The doctor suggested amphetamine abuse. Maybe that, coupled with the disturbing images that he was watching, pushed him over the edge.
All I know is television does not make a previously sane man go out and kill 5 people thinking they're all the same guy. Not even must-see TV could do that to you.
Okay, then how do you explain it?
I can't. Not yet.
So we get a similar conversation to the one we had in Blood. The key difference, Andrew, is that
it's not the same.
it's not the same. In Blood, Mulder was putting forth the idea of subliminal messages in television. And here, Scully is the one who suggests violence in television could be causing people to behave violently. And Mulder strictly opposes this.
Because he's absolutely right.
Yeah. Well, for the record, I agree with Mulder. This is an interesting dynamic, though, because it almost feels like a rewrite of the characters.
Mm-hmm.
It's really not. He believes in subliminal messaging, but the idea that simply watching violent television is just going to turn people into killers, he doesn't buy that. So it kind of treads.
Doesn't he even say, because just by the numbers, wouldn't the entire nation,
right? Yeah,
be a bunch of psychopaths?
Yeah, I agree completely with Mulder. This is bullshit. So Scully elects, however, to continue watching the tapes to try to get to the bottom of it while Mulder heads off to bed.
Mm-hmm.
Later that night, we are still in the motel.
We have not moved on.
We have not moved on. The next scene sees a darkened motel room with the light from the television bathing Scully as she fast forward through tapes. Mark Snow now ramps up his haunting soundtrack. In her room, she can hear ringing of a phone next door. In Mulder's room, she hears him pick up and acknowledge something, like he's reporting to someone, and that she doesn't know something. Ooh. She doesn't pay it much mind as she continues to watch, but later she heads outside to the ice machine with her bucket. As she fiddles around, something catches her eye. She peers around the corner of the building to find their sedan. Inside is Mulder talking with someone, smiling. The passenger is shrouded in darkness until we see the hand come up and strike a match to light his cigarette. It's CSM. The two men just talk, and Mulder hands him a VHS tape like the ones he and Scully have been reviewing. Scully can't believe her eyes. A van drives by and breaks her concentration. When it passes, she sees the sedan leaving the parking lot.
Going to say there's a nice callback for Scully going to get ice. I feel like that's a callback to Jose Chung.
Yes.
I love the muted quality of that phone call because it puts you in the same mind as Scully is in. Her imagination is running wild and you're straining to hear what's being said, but they don't give you enough detail to actually make out the conversation. I think that's very well done.
I think without the subtitles on, you are her just straining to hear what's being said. And you can actually miss it. Like if you're not paying attention, you can. And I did.
I didn't watch the subtitles actually. I didn't think about that, but that's interesting. Yeah.
The next day, a woman is at home doing her dishes. She has a game show on a small TV set. She glances at the set and smiles as she does her dishes. When she looks back at the sudsy sink, she's alarmed to see it distorting, just like the face from the pre-credit scene. She looks around her kitchen and reality starts to shift and glitch. She walks to a nearby window to see a man in a hammock being straddled by a beautiful blonde woman. They are kissing and laughing, Andrew.
Oh, what a
but
delightful scene.
This lady's fuming, right? She goes to her closet, and readily available in the corner there is a shotgun.
Listen, this is America.
This is America in the 90s, and possibly still now. The camera pushes slowly into the game show on the TV as we hear her head outside and hear a gunshot blast.
Probably nothing.
Probably okay. I think everything's fine.
Yeah.
Back at the motel, Scully sits alone, resting her mouth on her fingers in contemplation. Mulder comes to her door to inform her of the murder. She manages to beat Mulder to the car despite only walking, Andrew. She looks pretty bothered here. When she gets in, she immediately checks the dashboard ashtray with her fingers. There's no ash.
That just means that he's very canny, that cigarette smoker. He got the ash out of there.
He's got his little dust buster. No evidence.
Putting a little pine scent thing on the rear view mirror.
This wasn't here last night.
That's right.
God damn it.
Hey, but he went out for coffee. I like that, or maybe you're about to talk about it. They have that little back and forth on, did you go out for a ride last night?
Yeah. Yep. She questions him on if he took it out last night, but he says no. Well, it's been moved. The car's been moved, Mulder. He corrects himself and says he went out to get a paper this morning. Not overly suspicious, but it was a correction, which makes him sound a little guilty.
Mm-hmm.
And we can see that she doesn't believe him and the paranoia is really building here. Because he wasn't sure in his answer, right? Like that could have eased her a little bit.
Absolutely.
But because he made a small mistake, now everything's hitting the fan. You can just hear the twigs in her brain snap.
I totally went out. What am I saying?
I'm sorry. I completely forgot what just happened. We go now to the lady who killed the man's house, Helen Riddoch. The camera cuts to bloody grass and pans up to show a crimson stain on a hammock that still contains the dead man's body. It's now a crime scene with several officers milling about. Scully examines the body. Mulder apprises her of the situation. Helen Riddoch was crazed. She's been taken to county lockup and claims to have seen her husband in the hammock with a blonde. Mulder points. It's a golden retriever in the yard. He was only taking a nap with his dog, but she swears she saw him banging a hot woman, Andrew. Further twist, this isn't even her husband. Her husband is a long-haul trucker. This isn't her yard. This is John Gilnitz. There's that name again.
Yeah.
As Mulder continues on, we see confusion and paranoia again setting into Scully. She's standoffish, but follows him into the house. The television's on. Mulder sits on the exercise bike as they discuss the tape. I'm not sure this is standard procedure, but...
Hey, listen, they get away with a lot.
What the hell? She's not going to be using it anymore.
Yeah.
Helene, too, has stacks of tapes. Scully pops one in. Mulder peers out a window to see another cable van pull up to a pole. The worker gets out, and Mulder bolts out the door. As he makes his way to the man, he calls out to him, but the cable man doesn't respond and simply gets into his van and takes off. Mulder takes this opportunity to climb the pole and inspect the box himself, something very safe, something we should all try. Not.
Absolutely, at least once in your life.
Yeah, just climb it and start digging around metallic objects on a telephone pole. He inspects the box that the worker was working on, and inside are 4 vertical tubes, 3 gray and 1 gold.
I mean, like it's
just like Anasazi.
Yeah.
when she's checking the water lines.
Yeah.
And there's this brand new one against a bunch of old ones.
I do like the show don't tell aspect of it.
Yeah,
it's like it does stand out as an obvious clue, but I mean, really, I think as your caper goes, you replace all 4 with the same model. That
right.
way, it doesn't stand out like that.
Something to hide your tracks a little bit better, but obviously for the audiences, you want it to look just different enough to strike Mulder's attention. So
I before you run on, I just wanted to say I loved that the murder victim wasn't even her husband. It was a guy just in the near backyard. Yeah, it wasn't her husband. It wasn't even her backyard.
Yep.
Because when I first saw it, I think you see the corpse and he's got no beard, but in the dream he's got the beard, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you first see that corpse, you're like, did they just completely mess up on the continuity here? Or, what's going on? I was very confused until
it's
Mulder's
subtle.
like, It's very subtle. And then Mulder's like, yep, not even her backyard. It's like, okay,
they do that
this is
pretty well in
messed
this
up.
episode. They get things that shouldn't be and then things that are. It's a really cool dynamic they use in the episode. And it's just shit that a normal production probably wouldn't even bother with. They'd probably just show the quick gunshot wound.
Yeah.
Or they'd have the same actor or whatever. But yeah, that's just a small thing they add to this episode where it's like, damn, okay. So it wasn't truly her husband, and that's not who we saw. It's just small stuff like that
Just
I think
makes
they really...
more X-Files.
So Mulder's on the pull, and this catches the eye of Scully, and she heads out to him. She asks him about what he found. It's a cable trapper or scrambler, and she quickly suggests it's a job for Pendrell, and it should be analyzed. She reaches her hand out to do it herself, but Mulder, however, chooses to take it himself and give her a different objective. He tells her to see Helen Riddock and get her version of the story while he gets it analyzed. The deep concern is all over her face at the end of the scene. Mulder notes it, but she plays it off and he leaves.
I think, okay, they're dressing it up for the virtue of the plot. I'm okay with that because it makes it more interesting. But at the same time, again, they have been through so much. You really couldn't spend the moment to say, yeah, I'm just going to take it to our friends, those 3 guys. I can't take it to official channels because I'm suspicious.
Yeah.
But he doesn't.
Yeah. I see what you're saying. Yeah, he couldn't just say, I'm going to take it to the lone gunman.
Instead, he says nothing.
Instead, he says, I'm just going to take it myself. Yeah. Yeah, I kind of keyed in on that in the phone call later when she asked where he was. And he's like, oh, it's not a safe line. We can't talk right now. So
yeah,
I always thought that felt a little clunky because they're talking about everything else on the phone.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like, just tell her there. But
yeah.
But yeah, I understand what you're saying for sure.
They're doing it for the plot. And I'm fundamentally, I'm okay with it. But at the same time, I'm like, that's a little thread that you could tug on a little bit.
Right. At the lone gunman's office, the 4 men surround the tube that sits before them on a table. It doesn't seem to block his signal, which is strange. The gunmen now show Mulder what it does. They have 2 TVs set up next to each other with bars and tone. They look identical. The left one is without the device, and the right one is connected to it. On top of the TVs are 2 broadcasting monitors, again with similar images until Frohickey adjusts them the same way to reveal a horizontal bar of white noise on the right side monitor. Touchdown, he says. Mulder doesn't understand the correlation and forces them to elaborate. They explain how the TV works, rapid images fired against a tube. There's something non-standard here. Information that's being added, but they don't know what it is. In a really compelling shot, the camera pulls in close to the device. Mulder observes it closely while the gunmen are in the background. I really like that shot. They're all kind of just profiling him. Ultimately, they conclude this device is omitting some sort of signal.
But what kind of signal, Mike?
We don't know.
I love Mulder's line, I bet all you guys were officers in the audiovisual club in high school.
Oh, man, taking shots at his best friends.
Any opportunity to poke these guys a little bit, so good.
Driving down the road, he calls Scully. She's in her motel room with her TV on again. This time, however, she's a bit curled up in her chair, clutching the phone. She asks where he is. The conversation devolves quickly as Mulder tries to explain that he took the device somewhere else, but he'd rather not talk about it. He doesn't want to say too much on this line, considering the way things are shaping up. And Scully is increasingly uncomfortable. Suddenly, there's a click on the phone. She gets even more nervous. What was that? Mulder doesn't know what she's talking about. The clicking persists. He tells her not to go anywhere. He'll be right back. But before he can finish his sentence, she slams the phone down in fear. Sensing something really wrong, he tries calling her back, but she yanks the phone cord out of the wall to make the ringing stop. Picking up the headset, she unscrews the microphone cap. And for you children out there, this is what phones used to look like. It had 2 parts, 1 earpiece and a microphone, and 1 long, skinny handle. Anyway, she unscrews the voice cap and studies it, but finds no bug. She begins looking elsewhere.
She's not going to get the damage deposit back on this room.
No, she is not. She keys in on her bedside lamp, tears off the footing, searches under her coffee table, in outlets, thermostats, overhead lights, everything, Andrew. When she is unsuccessful, she scans the room, and suddenly her surroundings begin to glitch and distort. Mulder's headlights shine through her curtains, and she ducks for cover. There's a pounding at her door, and she takes off, looking for her gun. When she locates it, she fires 6 shots at the door, higher, as some sort of extremely aggressive warning to the person entering. She bolts out the back. Mulder kicks in the door. We see he was with the manager. He tells him to call the police as he enters, gun drawn. The apartment is a wreck. Scully doesn't answer his calls, and he notices one of the windows is opened. She is nowhere to be found.
Dun, dun, dun.
Andrew, that escalated.
That was the scene. So I got a couple things about this scene.
Yeah, please.
First of all, the scene of her taking the electric socket out of the wall to search for bugs, I like.
That's risky.
That is super dangerous.
That is extremely dangerous.
Like, there's the circuit's still on. Children don't do this at home.
You know, in a weird way, I don't think this is what they were doing, but I think it adds to the episode because she's so paranoid right now that she's acting irrationally and she's acting dangerously. But perfect, I don't think that's what they were going for. I think she's like, okay, I'm an FBI agent. We've dealt with bugs before. Where can I look?
Yeah.
And that's how it's supposed to be played, but it comes off as like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Well, it's clearly out of character, which is why the scene works so well, because it's just so crazed, and she is going full psycho to find this thing. And the glitching is a nice setup because we know we've known so far, whenever a character sees this glitching, they're going to do something bad, and it's going to turn on them in a bad way. So of course now we're super concerned for Scully, which of course leads to her shooting at the door. Yeah. Now, Mike, I've done a little research. In season 3, both Mulder and Scully are armed with the Smith & Wesson 5906 9mm pistol. This uses a magazine which has 14 rounds in it. Mm-hmm. So she blasts off 6 shots, and then the slide locks back because technically that happens when the magazine is empty. Yeah. So the theory is that she had only 6 rounds in her pistol, which I don't think that's silly.
So the question is, how many bodies are in this town that she
she's
killed already?
8 shots.
There are these other murders we're just going to attribute to other people.
That's right. I'm FBI. I can get away with this. The last note is that she has historically been the best shot between the two of them. Mm-hmm. So there should be a dead Mulder on the floor right there.
Yeah.
I will give it that she was freaked out and not in her right mind, not taking the time to aim. But
well, yeah. And I described it as kind of a weird, aggressive warning to whoever's coming in. I don't know. I'm just going to go with it because it helps me. It helps the show that she's still paranoid, but she's not completely nutso yet. Yeah. She's nutso, but she is not ready to kill someone nutso.
Yeah.
I'm willing to give that a pass. She's you can see her aiming high. I don't know if they really wanted us to believe she was trying to kill someone. I don't know why they would have her aim so high. Like, it's obvious. In my mind, they wrote it that way. Yeah. Like, she's not ready to just kill someone, but she thinks, and the pounding on the door is definitely elevated in her mind. Mm-hmm. So it sounds like someone is trying to break in, but I don't know. She's paranoid, but she's not ready to kill someone yet. So
yeah, okay. I mean, a hell of a scene. I'll give it that.
Excellent scene. And we are going to have a few of these scenes in this episode, which we will get to.
Well, let's get to it.
After the commercial, we are in Margaret Scully's home. Her phone rings, waking her. Due to the early hours, she is still asleep. Mulder's calling to locate Scully, but he doesn't have any answers. She's missing, and she ran off last night. And I just want to point out, Andrew, that this could be one of the dumbest things to do to Margaret.
Yeah.
I get it. But after what happened a year ago,
I know.
calling her to just inform her she's missing without any information is rough.
Hey, just wanted to let you know that your daughter's missing and that she's in hot water. You haven't seen her, right? No.
Let me
Okay,
keep
thanks,
you
bye.
apprised of this case. Oh, by the way, she's missing. We have no idea where she is, and she's taking shots at me. So, yeah,
If she shows up,
that's all I got right now.
Yeah.
But if she happens to show up at your house,
yeah,
great.
you know a number, right? It's on your speed dial.
I get that it's establishing, sure, that she would maybe head to her mom's house, someone who she would trust, but without any information, it's like, what are you doing to this lady? Just get some information first. And as much as I hate Margaret, I feel for her in this moment.
It's kind of silly.
He then gets pulled away and he has to hang up on her without any answers. Skinner is at the crime scene speaking with U.S. Marshals. Mulder's concerned that the manhunt is being conducted as if it's an escaped convict. And Skinner shares his concern, but the fact remains she took shots at Mulder and an unarmed civilian last night. Mulder wants them instructed not to engage her if they find her. Keep an eye on her until he can get there. He is convinced she's not responsible for her own actions, and she's suffering from a paranoid psychosis. The conversation ends with Skinner telling Mulder to figure out a way to get to her first. She is armed and extremely dangerous. Essentially, Andrew, he's saying he can't keep a lid on the marshal's actions. So get to her first or she might be shot.
I do like how Skinner casually mentions that she fired, first of all, she fired 4 rounds, which I don't know if that's just an error in the transcript.
That's an error because that counted.
Yeah, exactly. But he fired 4 rounds at you and an unarmed civilian. Would it have mattered if the civilian was armed?
Well,
like, why do we have that particular point on the...
It's what Hollywood does to make them sound even weaker than they are. Like, if you just say civilian, it's like, okay, but he was unarmed, Andrew.
Could have said an old man, fired at you.
An elderly man just doing his job. Breaking into a woman's apartment at night.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, man. Mulder goes back to his apartment in Washington. He puts his trademark X on his window to signal help. While he waits, he gets a call from Frohickey, who's got something interesting, but they don't want to discuss it over the phone, of course. Mulder makes the tough decision to leave his apartment while waiting for X to go see what the gunmen have uncovered.
Here's the tape Scully was reviewing last night. We scanned samples of the tape onto disk.
Digitized it.
Using some interpolating freeware we pulled out off the net, we were able to blank out the visible frames.
What am I looking at?
Well, this is the actual signal your cable trap device was emitting.
Of course, we slowed it down significantly. It's designed to cycle at 15 flashes per second to induce what's known as the photic driving response.
Bring it home, boys.
This device is stimulating electrical activity in the brain.
Studies into subliminal influence have shown a correlation between heightened suggestibility and the manipulation of this response.
Mind control?
57 channels of it.
Tachistoscopic images, like they used to sell popcorn at the movies. Both Russian and American scientists have been working with them for decades.
Not to mention Madison Avenue.
The naked lady in the ice cube.
Ah, one of my personal favorites.
Why wasn't I affected?
We get here, Andrew, what could be the explanation to what's happening to these people, and most importantly, Scully at this point. This is where it gets very similar to Blood. And I want to point out that they even use the same sex in ice cubes reference as they did in Blood right here. For those who may not know, just a small side tangent, the subliminal messaging scare, I did a little research, came about in 1957 with research being done by James Vickery, who tested theater goers by showing frames of words that were so fast during a movie they were unperceived by the human eye, 1/3000th of a second. They suggested drinking Coke and eating popcorn, and this idea eventually snowballed, and by the time 1973 came along, a man who was so convinced that this was happening on a global scale took it to the next level. His book, Subliminal Seduction, claimed that the word sex was in ice cubes for gin, and other imagery like a labia and erect penises were stuffed into ads to stimulate people to buy products. That's where this is coming from. So
I'm curious, in your research, did it talk about whether popcorn sales went up in the theaters in response to this?
I think there was some marginal change, but enough enough of a change, I guess, in the study to write a book about it. But so we also get another important Mulder fact, which becomes extremely important to the episode, Andrew.
Mm-hmm.
He is red-green colorblind.
He's always been red-green colorblind.
He's always been. We always knew it in our minds that something was off about his vision.
Yeah.
Extremely, extremely relevant to this episode and in future episodes.
Yeah.
So this isn't possible explanation as to why, because he's watched similar tapes as to Scully, he's not being affected.
Mm.
And I wanted to ask you, Andrew, it works for the episode, I think.
Yes.
It's just believable enough, right?
Mm-hmm.
We don't know all the ins and outs of this tech, but what they're telling us is that this tube is emitting a signal. They give us a short visual demonstration. There's a lot of colors flashing.
Mm-hmm.
He's red-green colorblind. To them, they're surmising that maybe this impairment is prohibiting the effects that normal people are feeling. So does it work for you? I guess is my question.
It does, actually. It completely works. And they neatly tie it into the glitching visual effect that they're using that we've seen so far, because that glitching, I don't know if you noticed, uses a lot of red and green.
Yep.
So I was okay with that.
It's just believable enough as to what they're referencing. And we don't know enough about what they're talking about. It's all science fiction anyway, but it makes sense in our heads.
The only thing I don't like about it is that they roll it out here as a little random factoid that saves the day. I mean, in a better written episode, maybe you find a way to weave it in earlier on so that when it comes around later, you, the audience, go, oh, well, he's immune because he's red-green colorblind. But
that's one thing I wanted to posit. Like, could they have written it in a way where Mulder hasn't viewed any of the tapes? Would it still have been something that we would go, oh, that's right, he hasn't actually seen any of the tapes?
Right.
Like, would we have, like, is there a way to get it so that Scully's reviewing the tapes, but he's always conveniently away or something? Would it have been quite as impactful? I know they're going for a kind of a reveal here, but
I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, I thought it might be interesting if they had chosen not to give him another extremely important impairment to his personal
his
personal
fear
character.
Of fire and fear of bugs.
Now he can't even enjoy Scully's best feature, her red hair.
Red hair.
It's just a gray blob on her head.
Well, first of all, I think that it's impossible to throw in the relevant detail earlier on without it being an obvious giveaway.
Right.
Hey, Scully, have I ever told you that I'm red-green colorblind? Yeah.
Yeah, that would not work.
So they couldn't do that.
It's just a shot of them inside the car heading to the case. That's it. Hey, Scully, have I ever told you I'm red-green colorblind? And then they arrive.
Do you ever know why traffic lights are designed the way they are with the lights 1, 2, 3 top to bottom? Yeah, it's strange.
To me, it
works in the script needs it to work, and it's a nice little out. To your point, could they have organized it so that he wasn't watching the tape? Doesn't sound. I mean, they could have divided it up like, Scully, I'm sorry, you got the job of going through the tapes, and I've got to pursue these other leads. Could have done that. I'm glad they didn't, though, because it makes it a little bit more believable. So,
Well, the scene takes a turn, Andrew. It ends with Mulder taking a call. It is not a pleasant phone call, and we can see his heart sink. He hangs up the phone and begins to head out the door. They think they found Scully. When the gunman asks if she's okay, he says, no, they want me to come ID the body.
Ooh.
And he exits. Super dramatic, Andrew. I think it's played very well. But it's one of those moments where, like, Mulder's like, I'm going to say something really dramatic and I'm going to leave the room because people are going to have to suck on it. They want me to come ID the body. Close the door.
Now, obviously, the take a step back and look at this point of view is not Scully. They didn't can Gillian Anderson from the show. She's coming back next week.
On this highly mythological episode, they didn't just kill her?
Yeah, it doesn't have any relevance to the overall plot line.
No.
It's a nice reveal because it is, of course, a case of, everything's going to be okay.
Well, that's the
how
thing.
are they going to write it so it's going to be okay?
I mean, I get into it a little bit here, but I'll just say it now. The next few scenes for me, like you say, we know they didn't can Gillian Anderson. They did not write her off the show in this episode. We know that in our hearts. What are you doing? You're spending 5 minutes leading up to it. I think it's done really well here.
It gives him an opportunity to get all emotional. Yeah.
We go to the county morgue. Mulder's in his car. It's parked. We can see him struggling and preparing himself for what he must do now. And then Mark Snow's score gets very dramatic and really fleshes out the scene. As he gets out of the car, the informant pulls up, right? Mulder refuses to get in the car because of Scully's condition. And the man's like, it's none of my concern. And this really gives Mulder agency to get pissed off. He's like, we're here because of you, he shouts at the man. He demands to know who he works for. The man ignores it and tells him to follow the evidence. While he chases his partner, they're destroying it. By tomorrow, it'll be too late. Mulder kicks the side of the car in anger and frustration, and he continues inside.
So we have a bit more of a callback. Now, is it Blessing Way? Which is, no, it's not that one, where essentially Scully's she's in the hospital and Mulder has to make this decision about whether he's going to lie in wait for the assassins or he's going to, sorry, which one?
One Breath.
One Breath, exactly. So we've got to call back to that because we've already had it where he puts the X on the window and he has to make a decision about whether he's going to leave or stay for Scully. And now we've got it again where the contact comes up and says, you can go see your partner or you can follow the evidence, which is more important. So they're definitely treading a bit on the same ground here.
Yeah. In a quick tracking shot, the camera twists from the ceiling down the hallway to where the coroner is waiting. I like that shot. It just kind of illustrates the fear and suspense in Mulder right now.
Yep.
A state highway patrolman found the body off a highway in the afternoon, nude and shot in the head. Mulder's eyes are closed as he solemnly absorbs the information. The coroner reaches for the blind stick thing. but Mulder requests to do it himself.
Yeah.
He steps closer to the window, steels himself for a moment, preparing for what could be his worst nightmare. And Mark Snow's music reaches millennium-level seriousness right here.
Ooh, that's really serious.
It is very serious. Mulder twists the curtain stick thing, and the blinds open, revealing a naked woman on a table in the room before him. We catch a blurry glimpse before the camera cuts back to Mulder as he peers in. After a long moment, he says, "It's not her." Oh, thank God, Andrew. Wow. It's just a murdered regular woman. We can all breathe easy. Get this body out of here. Stop wasting our time.
Yeah, I've got a case to solve.
Got a case to solve. As he goes to leave, he tells the coroner to call Scully's mother, but the man says he already tried and they can't get through. And this, Andrew, piques Mulder's interest.
Yes, this is the reason.
Why would a woman fearing for her daughter's life and waiting for information not be near the phone, like she was told to do? So that is why he called her for this scene right here.
Well, it makes sense. I like to connect.
It makes sense. I like this connection, but again, bad choice to call her with no information.
That other one was suspect. This one, okay.
Yeah. At Margaret Scully's house, Mulder uses the knocker on the door politely at first, and then a bit more anxiously. No one's answering. He peers through the window. Then the porch light turns on, and Margaret answers. Mulder asks if she's here, but she says no. "Well, you haven't been answering your phone, lady." And she says, "When I hear from her, I'll call you." And she begins to try to shut the door on him, but he knows what's going on. He forces his way in. He sees his way through the smoke screen. He steps into the living room and sees the house is quiet. When he asks where she is, Scully appears from around the corner with her gun drawn on Mulder.
Dana, put down the gun!
I'm here to help you, Scully.
I told you, Mom. He's here to kill me.
I'm on your side, you know that.
Sit down, Dana.
Scully, listen to me very carefully. You don't know it, but you're sick. It's the same thing that drove those other people to murder. Whatever you think may be happening.
Just step back.
Dana, you're not yourself. He's telling you the truth.
It's not the truth, Mom. He's lied to me from the beginning. He never trusted me.
Scully, you are the only one I trust.
You're in on it.
You're one of them. You're one of the people who abducted me. You put that thing in my neck. You killed my sister.
That's not true, Dana.
It is.
I want you to listen to me.
Look, just get out of the way.
You trust me, don't you? You know that I would never hurt you. That I would never let anybody hurt you. That's why you came here, isn't it? You're safe here. Put the gun down, Dana.
A wonderful scene for Gillian to play with. She is always so good at emotional scenes, and I think this one has an added bonus of getting to let off some actor steam and yell at David, because I'm sure at this point in the show they've been annoying the shit out of each other.
I believe that. Yeah, this is Emmy-worthy material right here.
Yeah. I mean, she's always fantastic at this emotional stuff, and we can see the character is absolutely convinced here that Mulder has been playing her for 3 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's an emotional scene with the most stress at the beginning of the conflict, and it's slowly falling away when Margaret tries to reason with her. And Mulder takes a step back. He does not push his luck here. All he tells her is that she is the only one that he's ever trusted. And Margaret really talks her daughter down. And I think that's a really cool flip. Normally the agents would help each other, but Mulder's like, all right, I've got a gun pointed at me. It's my partner. I'm going to let her feel what she's feeling right now. I'm not going to push my luck. So,
and everybody hates Margaret Scully, but here she is doing something super good.
She does a great job here.
Yep.
I think it's great. Scully collapses into tears on her mom. The gun falls to the floor in her hand. Oh, it's so sweet.
Mm-hmm. Bring out the Thorazine.
So the next day, or later on, I don't really know. I think it's May 2nd.
Listen, buddy, we know exactly what day.
Oh, it is May 2nd. So
May 2nd. It says it on the screen.
You're right. Mulder comes into Scully's hospital room. She's watching the TV on the wall, and with a smirk, he turns it off.
Nice touch.
He ain't taking no chances.
Mm-hmm.
As he pulls up a chair beside her, she says she was so sure. She saw and heard things. Her world was turned upside down. She thought he was going to kill her. And Mulder's been doing some digging during her stay here. Patnick thought he was murdering a Bosnian war criminal, someone he called a modern-day Hitler. Turns out Patnick's parents were Holocaust survivors. Helene Riddock, the lady who killed the man in the backyard, was scared her husband was being unfaithful. And apparently these two things create a pattern. Fear. He surmises that this video signal turned these people's anxieties into their worst nightmares. Scully says she was sure she's... a lot of S's. Scully was sure she saw Mulder in the car with CSM. She couldn't believe her eyes. At the end of their conversation, they ponder who could be behind this, and CSM is as good a suspect as any. In the hall, Mulder asks the doctor for her diagnosis. There doesn't seem to be anything medically wrong with Scully. Her MRI was negative, but the spinal tap revealed high levels of serotonin in her brain, which could be associated with the mania. The good news is she's basically back to normal now, and when Dr. Lorenz goes to leave, Mulder thinks to ask something else. Would she have diagnosed somebody for methamphetamine abuse in Scully's condition? And she says no, that wouldn't make any sense. He immediately calls the psych hospital and asks to speak to Dr. Stroman. The nurse says he's no longer here. He's back in Washington, but he left a number should they need him. And Mulder gets an idea. He looks at the bottom of the matches he took from the Court Motel, conveniently.
Mm-hmm.
There's a number, and he asks her if this is the number, and it is. Dun, dun, dun.
I wish they had done that a little differently.
Yeah.
I wish that she had just given him the number, and he went, oh, okay, thanks. And then he's like, wait a second.
I've
he
seen
pulls
that
out
number.
the matches, and he looks at it, and then we just see that. I think that would have been so much better than he decides he's at the hotel. It was just a bit of a reach, but
yeah,
a lot of stuff in here, because we got Mulder using his superpower, where he's like, hey, the signal amplifies people's worst nightmares. That's what it is.
Maybe I'll use my worst nightmare and have everyone be against me in some big conspiracy.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Do we ever see him taking matches
No, of course not.
Okay. I just wanted to be sure. Like, this is 100% out of their ass. Okay. This is how they chose to do it, so that's fine.
Yeah. I mean, he does have an eidetic memory or, an amazing memory, so he could have just, looked up and to the left and went, that's the number for the motel.
Yeah.
I booked a room with that number. Worth noting, this is minute 33 out of 44. It has all the feeling of the end of the episode, but Mike, it's not.
It is not
minutes.
the end of the episode. And again, very few times does this happen. Mulder is now just piecing everything together, right? Mm-hmm. So it's usually at the beginning. Minute 2 is when he's got the case figured out.
That's right. Now we just have to prove I'm right.
We're at the court motel now. The manager unlocks the door in an acute scene. Mulder asks if he should go first this time, and the manager's like, damn straight you should. He kicks in the door to a messy room. The man just checked out, and Mulder asks for a record of his calls. In the meantime, he spots a cigarette in the kitchen ashtray. Morley. Oh, boy.
No, we know who smokes those.
Yep. When he gets the call list, he studies it and calls Danny for an address.
Bringing all the tropes now.
Now Mulder pulls up to a nice house. He gets out and approaches, stopping to check the hood of the car parked in the driveway. It's warm.
Gotta love that old trick.
Just arrived. He goes to the door, but sees the cable van pulling up and hides. He watches as the man enters. Looking for a place to spy, he checks the windows and finds a good angle. Inside, the cable man and Stroman are talking. They're waiting for someone, and Stroman looks agitated. Stroman comes to look out the window himself, and Mulder ducks away. As he rounds the back door, he hears 2 gunshots, and he breaks in, gun drawn. He finds both men executed in the foyer, and from the darkness, X tells him he's too late. Startled, Mulder quickly corrects his aim as not to shoot him.
Now that you've destroyed all the evidence.
You were told this would happen. You made your choice.
I just didn't know I was working for you.
I had no alternative. I was being watched too closely. I couldn't risk compromising myself.
Why kill them if you wanted me to expose them?
Those were always my orders, Agent Mulder. I was just hoping you'd get to them first.
And uncover what? What were they trying to do? Manipulate people's behavior? Alter their decision-making process? What to buy? Who to vote for?
Do you think they'll stop at commerce and politics?
Where will they stop?
That's where you failed, Agent Mulder.
Don't lay this off on me, you sneaky son of a bitch. You pulled me into this situation because you didn't have the courage to reveal the truth yourself.
Feel better now?
You're a coward. You work in the shadows. You feed me scraps of information, hoping that I can piece it together. You make me risk my life, you risk my partner's life, and you never risk your own. You're not walking away from this.
You're risking your life right now. You failed. This is your success? Killing me? The truth is, you need me, Agent Mulder.
I love it when X and Mulder face off, Andrew. I can't get enough. Mulder actually draws his gun and threatens X's life here. And Mulder too, David too, gets to let off some steam of his own. He's getting tired of X's games and is tired of being used to do his work because he's too afraid to do it himself. This is another great scene because the action in this episode is really all theoretical and off screen.
Yeah.
We don't see anything crazy except for maybe Scully firing at the door. So the tension of the episode is really built expertly with scenes suggesting violence, but the real action, the real meat of the episode happens in scenes like this when Scully confronts Mulder or when Mulder confronts X. They're just really juicy scenes. And this is what I think is the best part of the episode, these types of things, these interactions between the characters, because other than that, all the quote unquote action is really just implied. So I really like the way they executed in this episode.
It's worth showcasing that X has power in this scene because he can walk away from Mulder even if he's got a gun on him. Like, it's the ultimate big dick. If you're going to shoot, shoot. But you're not going to because you still need me.
Yeah.
Is this the same house from Aubrey?
It looks like it, doesn't it?
With that stairway.
Yep.
Yeah.
I would not be surprised. I kind of want to go back and check, but yeah, that has always struck me.
Yeah. And I do question why X decides he's got to execute these guys, other than that's the way the story is written, how it is must be. I wonder if there wasn't another way.
It calls into question what the actual plot was, because these are the orders from CSM.
Mm-hmm.
He was ordered to kill these men, but X chose to get Mulder involved before he did it. So who are these guys and why are they being killed?
Well, and frankly, why would X bother to involve Mulder in this other than
it's something?
This is an evil program. We need to stop it. You need to put your nose in it so that we're forced to shut it down. That's the only thing I can see.
Yeah, that's probably what most of his motivations are in any episode. Just, hey, here's something crazy that's going on. I want you to know about it. And that's about it.
Yeah, exactly. But realistically, they don't solve anything, as is always the case with the X-Files. You know, he's a tourist to see the scope of this problem.
Yeah.
But he's not going to fix anything.
Right. So the scene ends with Mulder lowering his gun on X as he exits. Quite the big dick move by X, not the last of which will be in this episode. We go to FBI. Mulder sits with Skinner. He has no answers, and Scully comes in. The cable company employee had no criminal record, and a medical license of a Henry Stroman was found, but he died in 1978. When Skinner asks about the killer, Mulder interjects and says he remains an unknown subject, choosing to lie to once again protect his source, X. And then in one of the best ending scenes to an episode, in my opinion, X is walking down a dark alley to a car. Someone sits in the driver's seat. He gets into the passenger seat. It's CSM who's asking if X has completed his work. All the men have been removed, but Mulder still has one of the devices. This doesn't seem to concern CSM, who takes a drag from his cigarette. He asks about Mulder's new source. He's been eliminated. And what about his source? Who is X? And X says he remains unknown in a completely baller move. He lies to his superior with a straight face, eyes locked with him, no emotion or tells on either man. CSM is the first to break the stare to take another drag. Credits.
So they're both lying to their superiors. Look at that.
Yeah.
There's no trust.
The parallels, Andrew. Parallels. Mulder lied to his superior, and X is lying to his.
My goodness.
These two men could really just be best friends in other circumstances.
In another life, that would have been fine.
Yeah.
What an episode.
Wow. Despite its similarity to Blood, I think Wetwired has a real life of its own, Andrew. They were firing on all cylinders to kind of kick the can again at this little...
At this concept, yeah.
Yeah. Where Blood was great and suspenseful, it did have some small clunky elements that made it a little hokey, but I think Wetwired felt very dark, dramatic, and it pieced together extremely well with all of its parts. I think Mark Snow really amped up his game in this episode, and the effects, while you might consider them in the beginning of the episode, you said they were kind of iffy for you. I think they, at least for this time period, I think they were really adding to the show. They were done well enough to get their own shots, several of them. I think if they were poorly executed, it would have been one of those things they tried to hide. And I think they did a pretty good job on them here. So, as I stated before, the big dramatic sequences are the big, powerful, and the most engrossing of the show. Even the red herring of Scully possibly being dead, we knew she wasn't, but with the way it's shot, Mulder's mood, the anger with the informant, the music, the camera angles, and simply the amount of time they spent leading up to the reveal that she wasn't dead made it feel like she could be. Like, we felt like we were there with Mulder. At least I did. I don't know. It really felt less like a TV show in that moment. Him heading to the coroner, it felt more of like someone in this situation would be feeling this. So I feel like they knew what they were doing. and they had to find a way to execute it in a very dramatic way. And I think they succeeded.
No, I absolutely agree. I mean, for me, this is not a mythology episode, but there are so many tie-ins with characters we love and previous episode tropes. It kind of feels like one. Mm-hmm. The master plan seems eerily similar to Mulder's drugging in season 2's Anasazi, complete with the blue-collar employees being used to maneuver the tech in and out of place. But we get to see much further beyond the curtain with the involvement of Mr. X. It's a pretty deftly written script, giving Gillian Anderson a lot to work with as she descends into madness, and it's cunningly shot by Rob Bowman. For me, the TV glitching effect's a little 90s for my taste, but given what they had to work with and the source of the villainy, I guess it works for the time. So, in short, I liked it. There's a few small technical bits that run awry. The whole Scully's pistol going empty after 6 shots. Otherwise, excellent Monster of the Week episode in the tradition of blood, conjuring a great feeling of paranoia that extends well past the end of the show.
Can I just say, Andrew, that I love that one of the negatives for you was the amount of rounds she fired before her gun decided it was empty, because you did the research on that type of gun. It flies over the head of anyone else. But no, Andrew's like, what gun were they using? And would that actually have stopped there? Or would she have 8 more shots?
I think that the listeners come to expect that level of detail from us.
I do appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's great.
I mean, the obvious fix to that would be the rack doesn't stay open. She just fired her shots and she runs away. But
because they had to do the Hollywood thing and have the rack stay open.
I think that's just a miss. I think that was a continuity thing, and they could have fixed it. But
like we said earlier, the real question is who has she killed?
That's right. There are more questions than answers in this.
Yep.
Do we want to talk about, there is a single listener comment for Wetwired.
Please.
It is Emily Messenger. Yeah, she says that Wetwired is probably a top 10 for her. It's got all the right ingredients for a perfect X-File, and the scene at Maggie Scully's house is so well done by GA and DD. Mm-hmm. It's a better version of season 2's Blood, in my opinion, which was also good, but this is better. Mulder riding the exercise bike at the victim's house while holding the Hummel figurine, I see you, awesome. Vince Gilligan, is probably one of my favorite visuals from the whole series. My only little gripe is that I guess we're supposed to file Mulder's red-green color blindness next to his fear of fire as far as character continuity goes, and file it next to the fear of bugs. Absolutely.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for the comment, and thank you for listening. I think that's the episode, Andrew.
It sure is.
All right. Well, if you'd like to say goodbye. Yes. If you would like to say goodbye to the dear listeners, please do so.
Dear listeners, goodbye, and we look forward to speaking into your ear holes again soon.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you liked what you heard, please rate and review on your podcast app of choice. Andrew and I would be eternally grateful to you fine people for helping us expand and get the word out. Also, we've got a killer group on Facebook. Feel free to join in on the discussion at facebook.com/groups/thisisnothappeningpod and become an official member of the syndicate. We do polls and we have questions for every episode to give you guys the opportunity to chime in and possibly let your voice be heard on our recordings. And please join us on our new Twitter at tinhxfilespod, no dash, to stay up to date on everything, moment to moment. Thank you, and remember, don't stop swimming.